Howdy, on Molex Lives. I think it's time we play a little 7 Days to Die. Ooh, I hear a dog. So we should have a crazy horde going on right now. I feel like I've got my sound turned up too high in my headset here. Where you at, Horde? I hear you. You sound like you're on the roof with me. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. So I guess a couple things I want to talk about today. We'll start with a continuation of last episode. I'm pretty sure last episode I was talking about my headset. I know I talked a little bit about it in yesterday's episode of Infitech, but I definitely think I went into detail on last episode of this. So, just an update. I did get a new headset. I couldn't continue with the other one. I just didn't like it. I couldn't. It wasn't working for me. Which sucks because, it seemed like a nice... Why do I have my lights on here? It seemed like a nice headset, but it was just too different from what I had been using for years. I don't know what that was all about. That was like a dramatic soccer player right there. Wow. Some terrible aiming. Oh no. Listen, I know you guys are all Horde and stuff, but just so you're aware, I am rocking some hollow points, which I got, for the most part, I would like to get back on my roof, though. I don't plan on spending the Horde down here with you guys. Oh. Get off me, dog. Alright. Let's just get around here. Oh, I was going to shoot him, and then I ran past him. Fire bullets randomly into the ground, you know. Uh-oh. I hate when that happens. Not the being hit, but the where you go to jump on the ladder and your guy starts up it and then falls back down for no reason. You know, there's not a big point in fighting hordes now. This is the downside of the new system. Like, look at how many zombies I shot. None of them dropped anything for me to loot. I'm just wasting ammo killing a horde that's not gonna get to me. There's no point. There's no point. Oh, it says growing. So, let's see. Pumpkin, cotton. Everybody's growing. I want to start moving this stuff Wow, I don't have any... Okay, first off, I don't need corn growing. So we can get these out of here. I want to get some tea going, but I don't apparently have any tea plants planted. Coffee, blueberry, aloe, pumpkin, which pumpkin's like practically useless, mushroom, some cotton. Yeah, no. Like no goldenrod or anything? Okay, you gotta go in... Well, you know what? It did say I was infected, so let's get a anti... Right? Didn't I just take the right medicine for that? Yes, antibiotics. I want to make sure I took antibiotics and not uh, vitamins. So yeah, I ended up going with the... I'd purchased the GSP 600 because it said that was like the best, right? Well, there was one better, but I I owned a Sennheiser, and the GSP 600 is a Sennheiser, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go with Sennheiser again. Um, I hope that doesn't break up my garden. No, sweet, okay. And I do have to admit that I screwed up something, which turned out to be one of the deciding factors for me in getting rid of. Well, I didn't get rid of; they're still here, just not using them. But I mistakenly the headband has a setup in it. You know, I guess I could have got some meat out of these guys that I need, right? Can you get that from zombie beasties? Uh-oh. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. Oh, good job. Oh. Come on, go up the ladder. I need to build a shooter spot. I don't have a good spot to fight these guys. But yeah, so there are adjustment sliders in the headband, and I didn't look at the instructions very well. Honestly, the instructions in the Sennheiser headsets, both of them, are not great. Um, they're basically like pictures with almost no words, and which makes it difficult to know what you're looking at. And so uh, that's not going to explode. I didn't pull the pin. Fun. Oh, dang it. Get back out here. What time is it? Oh, it's a long way till... I probably just killed myself. Nope. That's close, though. And so if you have the sliders pushed up, it makes the headset tighter. And if you push it down, it makes the headset looser. So I had pushed the headset sliders up because I didn't understand what they were doing, because you can't feel it. You don't feel it. It's not a hugely noticeable, but man, having those up made my head hurt. But yeah, then there were the other things like the sensitivity of the microphone, the way sounds come through it, the way I could really hear myself talking. And I don't mean like the microphone was picking them up. I mean just the sound of your voice in your head was super loud while wearing the other headset. And so I bought the GSP 550. It's a lot closer in makeup to the one that I had to replace. I'm finding it quite comfortable. I don't think it's quite as comfortable as the previous one. I am finding the new design to be a little, man, a little tighter than... Where did it go? I could have easily harvested that one, but it just vanished. Shot that one so hard that it exploded in midair, I guess. Yeah, I like this one better. Nice thing is I can have my air conditioner on and it's barely noticeable compared to the other one where I couldn't have it on and everything was being picked up by the mic. I wonder if there isn't software that should have been used with the other one, because I did have to go on their site and hunt down the software that went with this one. Um, and but this one also got picked up by the one piece of software that did come with it, whereas the other headset did not get picked up by the piece of software. Because I can turn the sound dampening on and off on this headset, and I couldn't find a spot to do that on the other one. Anyway, that was my headset journey. So I am liking the new one so far, and I know I know the guys that I game with said that it sounded a lot better than what I had been using and the replacement. So that's always a good thing. Uh, Man, do you think they're... I really just wanted to get some more rotten flesh. Whoops. Whoa. Oh, here I die. uh, I guess I had two more things I want to talk about. One is, oh shoot. One is I'm an idiot. No, that's not what I want to talk about. But man, I guess I'm not that far from home. But wow. Um, so one thing I saw today that they are talking about. Um, a bill has been put together in Congress to uh, provide billions of dollars to put in place 100 meg simultaneous internet for everyone in the United States. I'm for that. I'm all for that for sure. Um, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous that this country does not have any kind of standards on internet. It's ridiculous on so many levels. Uh, Everything, like, okay, nope. There's just everything we do practically. Okay, let me rephrase that. A lot of what goes on in the world requires access to the internet now. Uh, Everybody's on their phones. Everybody's streaming. Not everybody, of course, but you know what I mean. Like a large majority of people. Email, streaming. I work from home over the internet. My sister, who is a counselor, works from home over the internet now. Um, and and that's all well and good, but our internet's terrible. Um, and it's never gotten better. I mean, that's not true. It's gotten better. But let me see if I can do a brief history. Let's do a brief history of my life involving communication companies. So, my parents moved into a rural area, and when they moved into their farmhouse, it was required that every house have access to a telephone. I don't know when that became a law, but somewhere in there it became a law. Also, no, let me rephrase that. If you provided access to telephones in an area, then you had to provide telephone access to everyone in the area. You didn't have to give them service, but they did have to have the ability to sign up to get service. And so, same thing with electricity. If you provided electricity in an area, you have to provide electricity to. You have to provide the opportunity for all people to be able to get service. And so, where I grew up, uh, we were not we're not on the big electric company's grid. There's an electric company that provides electricity to all of this area, but they don't have to provide electricity on roads that they didn't run electricity to someone else on those roads. And so there are whole sections where there was no electricity. So the farmers in the area who were on those roads had to get together and they formed a small electric company that provides electricity to the areas that the big electric company refused to install infrastructure. So this is a problem. This is a problem why we can't let companies decide on that kind of thing. Because imagine you live, no joke, a half a mile from a road. You live on a road half a mile from another road. That other road, everyone on it has electricity. You're half a mile away, you do not have electricity. So think about what that would mean to your life and how your life would be way different from everyone else's life. You wouldn't have access to lights uh, that didn't require fire. You wouldn't have access to hot water that didn't require you to boil it. You wouldn't have access to running water in your home that didn't require you to pump it. You wouldn't have television or radio or any of those things. And so that puts you at a disadvantage to the people who have electricity in a fundamental way. Your days are shorter. You don't know what's going on. And you have to spend more of your time doing simple tasks than a person who has access to electricity. And so it's called a utility. Everyone should have access to utilities. So they wanted to make internet a utility. So now telephone's the same way. So where my parents bought a farm, yes, they had access to telephone service, but there was nothing in the. Oh, are you garden? No. I got excited there for a second. I thought this might be a garden plot that I could steal, but that does not seem to be the case. And so yeah, so when they moved in, the phone system was available, but it was what they call a party line. And that is not, it's a party. That is, everyone has access to the same phone in the area. So you would get on and someone would be talking on the phone and you'd have to be like, I need to use the phone. How long do you think you're going to be? And that person would be your neighbor that's a quarter mile down the road who's chit chatting away. And so you'd pick up the phone, and chances are somebody would be on the phone and you could listen into their phone conversation, or you'd have to ask them to how long it would be before you could access the phone because you need to make a phone call. So my parents paid to put in a private line, um, and so the phone company ran a private line to farms. So I did not most of the time experience the party line. We did have some times when the phone was being worked on that they reverted us to the party line. Um, but yeah, so it was I want to say it was the early 90s when they finally ruled that you had to have a private line. I've been thinking about that. The 90s, the 1990s, which I know seems a long time ago and is a long time ago, but it's not that long ago for that's when they decided that everybody needed their own phone line. Uh, so then you get ISPs coming in, right? So my phone company who installed the phone line in the 70s for my parents did not update it in the 90s. And so then we get dial up internet, right? And so the dial up internet, if your infrastructure was newer, then you could get the max speeds of dial up. So we'll skip all the early versions and we'll just go to the last version of dial up, which was 56K dial up, 56 kilobit dial up, 56 kilobits. And our phone line was so bad that most of the time it ran at about 28 kilobits. And they weren't going to pay to fix that infrastructure. They just weren't, because they did what they had to. They had provided access, and it didn't matter that I wasn't getting full quality. They don't update your phone equipment unless you throw a fit, practically, right? I mean, you probably have called the phone company, your ISP, with issues, maybe. I mean, I have several times. And, oh, jeez. I fought one zombie, and now there's a whole horde running right at me. And so yeah, so then there's nothing else we can have access to. Nothing. There is. Oh shoot! Turn the other way. There is the dial-up or nothing, and then they come out with satellite, but satellite's terrible. Maybe not the new satellite when it becomes available, but current satellite has too big of a I forgot what it's called. I wanted to say ping, but that's not what the problem is. It's a delay. There's a delay. I don't remember what it's called. The term just slipped around my brain. And so dial-up was it. And then this company came in and they had fixed wireless. And so that was great because fixed wireless was way faster than what the telephone company had available. Fixed wireless let me have 1.5 megabit down, and like I want to say it was like 300 and something kilobit up internet speed. Well, that's way faster than the 28K we had, right? So then we moved. Like that was my internet all through for years. Never got any better. Never got any better. We never got cable. Cable companies never ran cable down the road. No DSL, no fiber. Like the phone company came through and ran fiber cable through our front lawn, but it wasn't for people to connect to. It was just the trunk line between cities. And so even though it ran right down a rural road, there was no way to connect into it because it wasn't designed to let you connect into. It was just designed to connect one city to another. And so that's what I had was 1.5 down and 368, 386, something like that, K up. So then we moved, and when we got here, they're like, well, we don't have access. You don't have access to the fixed wireless. I'm like, oh no, am I going to go back to dial-up? Because, and then I talked to my neighbor who I knew, and he's like, oh yeah, no, we got DSL here. I'm like, oh cool, DSL. That's better than the fixed wireless, right? And so So we get the DSL, but what we got is a synchronous DSL, and so we get a, around 8 meg down. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but it averages around the 8.5 meg down. We pay for around 10 is what it's listed as, around 10, and so uh, but it's only got 768K up, which is usually around 600 and something up. Because once again, it's around 10 down, around 768 up. And so, so yeah, and it hasn't been the greatest, but I mean, it's as good as any other internet we've had. It's a lot faster than what I had before, but it's the only thing available. Like I could get the satellite stuff that doesn't work for what we do, for what I do, for what my family does. Um, but that's it. That's our two choices: satellite that you can't game with, uh, and DSL that is slow. That's it. They've never improved the infrastructure. They've never run fiber optics. There, I can't get cable here. We don't have cable television. There's no cable. There are two cable companies in the area. No cable at this location. Occasionally, they'll send me a thing saying, "Oh, we offer services in your area," and I'll be like, "Oh, you offer internet here? Huh? I'd love to switch." Oh no, we're sorry. We don't actually have internet in your area. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think you did, but you told me you did. Um, so yeah, so I see this thing, right? 100 meg up and down, simultaneous internet for everybody in the United States, because it's kind of like having the electricity or not having electricity. With good internet, you spend less time waiting for things to load. To you have access to better features on the internet, like Twitch, right? I mean, this is not something I need, but this is an example. Twitch is, of course, the streaming service. Twitch. Um, I can't, I can't stream because my internet's not fast enough. That's not a big deal, though. Um, I don't need to stream. I don't need to watch Twitch either, but I can't watch Twitch. My internet does not work well enough most of the time to show Twitch. It just sits there freezing and then loading. Oh, here's about a half a second back to loading. It shouldn't be like that, but it is. And so I mean there is stuff like that you can't access. Like how do you do video conferencing for your job when the video won't load, right? And how does your kids get into multi person video chat for school when it won't load? All right, here we go. It's daytime, and so it's a big deal, and $100 billion. If it's only going to cost $100 billion to put that in place, explain to me why that hasn't happened so far. Uh, because don't they spend billions of dollars on individual pieces of military equipment that we don't really use? I mean, if $100 billion bill can get 100 meg simultaneous internet to most of the United States, why has this not been done so far? What is the holdup on getting people more of a level playing field when it comes to internet communication, something that everybody uses all the time. I mean, in my state here, right? In my state here, they can't even get together. Uh, I am not a proponent of government owning everything, but I do feel there are some things that government needs to be involved in. And this is one of them. I feel we don't have cable. It's it's 2 miles to the next house down the road that has cable in both directions. I am in a 4 mile gap between cable internet where they just didn't run it and they have no intentions to. Uh, because it's not worth their money to put it in, they say. If I wanted to pay for it, they'll do it. I believe what they told me was if I could get 4 or 5 of the people who live in the area to hand over $20,000 each, then they would run the cable. Uh, and then they would charge us for internet, obviously. But if we wanted to pay to put in the cable that they would then charge us to use, then we could get internet. But otherwise, they're not going to do it because it's not worth their effort to do it. And so I feel like this is the thing. And then on top of that, there are laws in place. I know this is going long, but there are laws in place that stop anybody else from doing it. And the thing is that even when there aren't those laws in place, the companies still don't do it. They talk a big game, but they don't ever do that stuff ever. Um, I just read an article the other day that they were complaining that they couldn't put in the infrastructure because of all the regulations. So now they've dropped all the regulations, and the amount of money being invested in new infrastructure by the telecoms has gone down since the regulations have been dropped. Because some of those regulations were enforcing that they had to invest in new infrastructure. And so now they're just not doing it at all. And so this is one of the areas where I feel like the government needs to get involved. We just had two privately owned, and I don't understand how this is even a thing. Two privately owned major dams collapse, flooding whole cities. Uh, So your privately owned dam that wasn't up to code um, collapsed, and now the state has to clean it up. I feel like the state should have been in charge of that dam. Look, I found a potato plant. I didn't know you could just find. Did I find a little garden here? Huh. I went miles looking for potato plants, and there's just a couple of them right here. Just random potato plants. But yeah, it's super frustrating to me, this infrastructure stuff, and people talking about how, oh, you just let the private companies and the private owners, they'll do the right thing. No, they don't. They don't. And so I sit here, 2020, 25 years. 25 years I've been waiting for the telecom companies to come through and update my internet infrastructure so that I was at least partially on par with cities. I mean, I'm not asking to get gigabit up and down. I mean, I'm not being ridiculous. I don't know why I couldn't have gigabit up and down, but I'm not asking that the infrastructure be upgraded to. That's not how infrastructure in this case works. I should have gigabit up and down, but uh, even 100 meg up and down would be a day and night difference in how the internet works here. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Frustrating. I can talk. Um. Yeah. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and do my next thing too. This won't take very long. We played D&D last night. I like to talk about my D&D game. And it was it was all right. Basically, uh, we reached a point where we used how our DM was playing the last couple of weeks against him. Uh, and so he he's been doing this thing where he acts like well no I talked about it last time when we talked about D&D, but he's doing this thing where he it's like this is a room and this is a room and here's a room and here's a room and here's a bigger room, right? And and in between these rooms are hallways. And so we'll come down a hallway, and then we'll open this room, right? And so the book says that like this room is empty, but this room and this room and this room have guys in them, and then these two rooms are also empty. And so what he'll do is this whole section is labeled F in the book: F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6. And he'll just take everything in the F section and put it in this room when we open the door. And so he's been doing that a lot. And so last night we started with all that stuff. The thing is that some of the stuff we're fighting is the appropriate level for us to fight, which means that it's supposed to be what they call basically a D&D day is supposed to be a war of attrition. You fight ongoing battles that slowly drain your resources until you can't fight anymore. And so you're supposed to fight this group and use, well, not this group because that was empty. You're supposed to come in and fight this group and use some of your abilities, and then fight this group and use some of your abilities, and fight this group and use some more of your abilities, and then maybe take a short rest at that point, which lets you bring back some of your abilities, and then move on until you reach the next set of rooms where you fight what's in this room using some of your abilities. So instead, what he does is he puts them all in one room because he thinks he can overwhelm us. And that is his plan, is to overwhelm us with the guys. And so he did it last night. We started a fight. We started the game in a fight with a large group of guys who were supposed to be spread out amongst several rooms. And then we went to, after we defeated those guys, because they're all together, I used a single spell and wiped out most of them. We moved on to another section. And when we got to that section, he was like, there's a bunch of guys in this room and they all attack you, and while they're attacking you, these other guys come up and start attacking you. And he's not, because we're playing online, the map is all blacked out and he only takes out tiny bits that you can see. Not what your guys should be able to see, just what he decides he wants you to see. And so because you can't see the rest of the room, you don't know that there are more bad guys in the room. And so as you move around trying to fight, he just keeps adding more and more stuff to the fight. And so I'm like, okay, I've had enough of this tonight. And so I used a spell called, I don't remember what it's called, Thunder something. But it makes a loud sound that can be heard for up to 300 feet. So then we had to pause the game for like 10 minutes while he tried to figure out how far 300 feet was on the map, and bring all the bad guys that were within 300 feet. And he's like, oh, see, you done made a mistake now because everything heard you, so everything's coming your direction. And I hate that he DMs like that because there's no surprise. He tells you what's about to happen. And so it's not like, oh, something's coming out of the dark that you can't see or something like that. He's like, Nope. All right, I've loaded up all these guys, all these drow, and all these spiders, and this other group of I forget what the other things were called. Something I hadn't seen before in the game, and uh, and so so yeah, and then they just got in big groups, and so I had a scroll of fireball. I threw a fireball in the middle of one group, and then I had one more cast of psionic blast, so I turned and used that and wiped out another group, and then that just left us with a few handful of spiders and like one drow captain we had to take care of. Um, but yeah, all right. Well, I definitely need to get some more rotten meat so that I can expand my garden some more. But I do think I got going on here pretty good. Um, but yeah, all right. So with that, be better in the small things, lean into the light, and I will talk to you later.